Morning, and thank you so much for joining us for the virtual open day for the Complete Sustainable Events course. I'm Anna Abdelnour, co-founder of Isla.
And I'm Andy King.
Thanks so much for joining us. So today we're going to be kind of giving you a bit of insight into who we are, why this course and why now, what it's going to entail, how much work's involved, when it starts, all the sort of nitty gritty that you're going to want to know about. But I think it'd be great to kind of kickstart with an intro from Andy. Tell us a bit more about who you are.
Well, as most of the world knows, I'm Andy King from the Fire Festival. But the majority of the world doesn't know that I've been an event planner for 30 years and really faced many challenges in my career with the world of waste and coming up with so many different ideas of trying to kind of shift that. And as of about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I took my business model and really began to focus on zero waste events, or as close to zero waste as possible. And I teamed up with a wonderful group of engineers developing a calculator where we could literally measure the carbon footprint of every event that we hosted and how we could make our events less wasteful. Because as many of you know, the event world is one of the most wasteful industries going. And boy, for us to be able to take control of that and to be able to really focus on how can we make a positive change, how can we be good role models to the rest of the world? Boom, this is an amazing opportunity. And I'm excited to be teaming up with Anna to share a lot of our secrets.
Yeah, it's brilliant, Andy, because it ties into so much of kind of my story as well and my background. So I co-founded Isla in the midst of the pandemic last year. My background is actually as an event producer. So I've worked on global conferences and exhibitions for big tech, fashion, drinks, auto brands, etc. Freelance for a long time before establishing Isla. And it's a similar journey of recognizing how impactful the event industry is, and the fact that we're very behind in so many instances compared to other industries. And the idea of Isla was born to look at how we can help, how Isla can help as an organization accelerate the transition of the industry to this sustainable, regenerative industry that we all want, kind of coming back from that post-COVID recovery. So our ambitions are around zero waste as well. So great tie in there. Targeted carbon reductions, renewable energy, really driving forward change and using the amazing creative brains that we have within the industry to help shape the future of what it can look like.
It's interesting how this course came about. As many of you know, I was blessed to participate with a meeting show with a headlining virtual presentation last year, wonderful COVID, and the response was phenomenal. And it was a surprise to me because, of course, I felt like, my involvement with a meeting show was to talk about the event world and what do you do when things go wrong? And, obviously looking at Fire Festival is kind of like a model of like, oh my gosh, when something goes this wrong, how do you react? What do you do? And we touched a little bit on my love for sustainability and my focus on climate change and social impact. And the next thing you know, we were getting all these amazing responses from attendees wanting to learn more. And I felt, wow, this is an amazing opportunity to be able to share my 30 years of experiences, and then specifically my last 12 of focusing on running a zero waste event company. And here we are today with this wonderful course. I'm really excited to be doing it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And that was one of the things as well that came through, is that we've done quite a lot of work with the meeting show as well from a sustainability perspective, a bit more behind the scenes. And I think following your session, they did, quite a lot of research was done into the interest around this course, and there were quite a lot of people polled, and there was a unanimous response from everybody questioned this was absolutely something that was wanted and very much needed. I think it was about 90% of people rated it as very important, and more than 70% of people felt that it really needed to sit at the top of the agenda in our post-COVID recovery. And so it felt like quite a natural process to take the work that you've been doing and the work that we've been doing with TMS, and the fact that we run and deliver training as well as an organization. We deliver more training to our members than we can keep up with, which is great, and we've got a really great success rate with that. We've been developing working groups that are really collaborative and bringing in event experts as well as sustainability experts to create resources for the industry, from Proceed, which is the industry's first universal framework for sustainable events that we created, to Trace, which is our carbon measurement tool that's launching later this year. So with kind of all these resources that we've got, the experience we've got, the experience you have, the fact that there's such a massive desire from people to put this at the top of their agenda, you know, it felt like a real no-brainer to team up, and I think, as you coined it, Andy, to drive the power of change through this course.
Well, Anna, you think about it, like the challenges that corporations have today, most of them, they have to have their main ethos and their messaging has to be about sustainability. Because in the world today, with Gen Zs, Gen Xs, millennials, like they are what they, well, let's say we are what we wear, we are what we eat, we are where we go, we are what we do. And so as an event person, whether you're hosting a festival or a conference, you work internally in a large corporation hosting their events, or you're an external piece, well, it's all about branding. And this has been the biggest hiccup, I think, which is where companies and individuals and festivals and big conferences, they get tripped up on their messaging and they're talking all about sustainability. But when they deliver an event and you walk around going, this is one of the most wasteful things I've ever been to in my life, with no consistency, this is where we can really help people today. Yeah. And I'm really excited about it.
And I think that's such an important point, is about, you know, it's more than just those optics of what you're saying. It's about walking the walk and talking the talk. And there's so much that's changing, so much that has changed, just expectations from consumers. But the fact that, you know, you've got kind of global pledges towards net zero, we've got Race to Zero, 240 banks that represent like 40% of the world's investments have just banded together to set expectations and standards for sustainable investment, which is kind of insane. You know, we know that in the UK in the next few years legislation will be coming through, with particularly with regards to how businesses deal with waste. We also know that carbon measurement and carbon reporting is critical for is actually a legal requirement for here in the UK, the for quoted companies. So it just becomes more and more of not only the right thing to do, but an actual expectation and requirement across the board. So it just makes perfect sense to give people the skills and the resources and the education and the knowledge to help them become experts within their area, because we all have to become in some way experts in sustainability for the future of the planet and the future of the various industries that we work in. So yeah, this course is pretty cool. So obviously we've covered who we are and why time is now, but really what does this course entail? What are we looking at? So the Meeting Show Complete Sustainable Events course is a 6-week online learning course. It covers 6 modules that last around 45 minutes to an hour per week. They will be introduced by Andy, who will be bringing some brilliant anecdotes and experiences. And then the course content will be delivered by myself, and we will be bringing in some sustainability experts and partners as well to share insights, tips, information, interviews, and so on. We'll be covering things like starting from the beginning, creating your event plan, understanding the things that you need to be considering, where you've got easy wins, where you might need to be a bit more strategic, right through to how you actually can create a post-event report so that you can use this as part of your day-to-day work, not just a case of how do you plan differently, but how do you demonstrate that you are planning effectively, efficiently, and for a positive impact. You'll have access to some of Isla's resources that we have delivered that are normally only available to our members. So that's pretty cool as well. And the course kickstarts from the 8th of November, and because it's fully virtual, you can do it from anywhere, which is really exciting. And I think one of the great bits about this is Andy being able to bring some of his anecdotes to the table. So I don't know if you've got anything you want to share with us now, any kind of crazy requests you've had or good stories to give people a teaser.
Oh boy, let's see. Some of them aren't really appropriate, but you know, when I think back, like people always say, what's one of the craziest, scenarios? I'm thinking to myself, well, here's one. Now, keep in mind, this is prior to me taking my business and making it as close to zero waste as possible. So this was in the late 90s, and I was hosting a very large investment banking firm was going public on the New York Stock Exchange. So it was a big event, and we were having 1,400 people, and it was actually an event over 3 days. And let's just say that we had there were several big names involved. The Rolling Stones, for one. I could go on, but here my team was very busy trying to plan these three large events that were taking place all in New York City. And it was a Monday, and the biggest kickoff was going to be on, let's say it was on Friday night. And so I get a call from the chairman's wife of this investment banking firm, and she had a Southern accent. She said, "Hey, Andy, what are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "Oh, geez, I'm going to be at the beach lying down." Ha ha ha. Not really. As you know, when you're hosting an event for, a couple thousand people in just 4 or 5 days, you got your hands full when you're in the last countdown period. And I said, "Well, where am I going to be tomorrow?" She said, "Well, I have a 747 jet waiting for you on the tarmac at John F. Kennedy Airport." And I said, "Well, where am I going?" And she said, "Well, you're going to be going to Amsterdam." Now, there's a little town in upstate New York called Amsterdam, but then I figured probably not that Amsterdam. And I said, "Well, what am I doing in Amsterdam?" And she said, "Well, I have just ordered 250,000 orange tulips because that is my favorite flower. And I want you to recreate the kitchen gardens around the Water Club of Manhattan, all the way up and down the East River." And I'm thinking, holy shit, what? Oh my gosh, there it is. I've got 4 days. I am flying to Amsterdam tomorrow, flying back, and I have to recreate the kitchen gardens from Holland to create this amazing approach for one of the most prominent parties in New York that year. And here it goes. I mean, we fly over. I call all my friends. Can anybody come? No, everybody's busy. I fly by myself with an entire crew. We're drinking champagne. We get over there. We fill the entire jet with tulips. We fly back. And then, of course, the tulips get stuck in customs for 24 hours. So they start getting taller and taller. Thank God, not too tall. But we planted all of those tulips. It was the most magnificent thing you've ever seen. And of course, they were dead in 3 days. Can you imagine the carbon footprint on those tulips after flying to Amsterdam and flying back by myself on a 747? Well, let me tell you something. I'm not doing that anymore. No, probably not a good thing. But those are some of the crazy things that I faced in the world of waste with large events. Isn't that amazing, Anna?
Mad. It's
amazing.
Madness. But do you know what? At the end of this course, people will be able to measure the carbon footprint of Andy on his own on a 747 flying back and forth to Amsterdam. So, it gives us some great learning opportunities. But yeah, the crazy things that clients can ask us to do sometimes can really just be very challenging to say no to. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think it brings in that kind of the charisma, the excitement, the opportunity, kind of the power that we have as event planners to make slightly different decisions. But then also we're able to bring in all of the actual skills and tactics and resources and the way we plan, the way we think, the way we talk, the way we measure, the way we report, all of these sorts of things. So we're really able to kind of bring in that piece around storytelling, which you're so amazing at doing. And, it's so powerful because that's what an event is. It is a story. So how do we use those stories, and how do we use our skills, and how do we use our control and our influence as professionals working in creative, in delivery, in catering planning, in logistics? How do we apply the sustainable practices within that space? And that's what this course is really going to enable people to do, so that rather than it being something we don't know how to get, don't know where to start with, we're upskilled right from the start.
I think what's wonderful here is that, yes, I have the narrative and I have some amazing stories and a lot of experience. You have an amazing technical background, which is what would balance us out as an amazing team. And then I understand you're also bringing in a lot of experts in areas that are vitally important that often get overlooked in the event world. And I think, I can be the yin and you can be the yang, which is kind of cool through this coursework, but then bringing in other experts as well. I think it's going to be an amazing sort of full circle of like, what do
Yeah.
we really need? What do we need? What knowledge do we need? What wisdom do we need? But what we want is to be able to empower all of our attendees, empower everybody that signs up for this course to say, I am an expert for this.
I think that probably leads really nicely into kind of just a quick overview of the 6 weeks, just so people have an idea of what we're going to be covering in those modules. So across those 6 modules, we're going to be looking from purpose-driven events. We'll be looking at our supply chains and our stakeholders. We'll be looking at kind of the destinations that we're going to, understanding offsetting and our carbon footprint, how we can have amazing positive impact through food, the way we design our menus, the way we source food, looking at circular economy, and also with regards to kind of production, which is such a major part of it. How can we think about circular design and consumables? And that talks really brilliantly to all your zero waste, all your zero waste work, Andy. And then finally from that, how can we create a carbon report and understand our opportunities to have ongoing positive impact moving forward? So it's really a very jam-packed course. It's fun, and it's going to be high production quality, high production value. This isn't just kind of a Zoom recording, so that's really nice, but it's jam-packed full of interesting information, interesting anecdotes, useful and applicable skills and resources, and yeah, we're pretty confident that you're going to come away from this much better equipped to deal with the challenges that arise in delivering a sustainable event.
I mean, think about it, Anna. We're going to empower the event world right now. Think of it like knowledge is power. That phrase is coined all the time, but we are going to empower our group to be great leaders, great thought leaders as far as sustainability is concerned. And it's just vitally important. If you think about our industry and it's one of the biggest touch points that most brands have are hosting large conferences or large meetings. And boy, to be able to utilize that touch point to influence the world to make better choices and good decisions, boom, this is a great platform to do it.
So I think that brings us to some of the slightly more granular details about the course. We mentioned before that it kickstarts from the 8th of November, and it's going to be hosted on Swapcard, which is a virtual platform. If you don't already know it, get on it because it's great. But it does mean that you'll be able to kind of watch and consume the sessions and the content and the modules at your own pace. And we'll also be able to kind of have online chat and video calls with participating students so that you've got that interactivity as well. So the course is $595 plus VAT, and there is an option for group booking, so you can contact Ross Barker, and the email address should drop into the chat so that anyone can get in touch if you do want to find out about group bookings. And there also will be 2 live Q&A sessions that take place throughout the course. So if there's anything that comes up that isn't answered within any of the modules, you'll be able to kind of ask those questions live during that Q&A as well. And the course is in the process of being accredited by the Continuous Professional Development Standards Office, which is an absolute mouthful. So we'll be able to update you in due course once that is sorted. But we're really hoping that it's something that goes onto CVs and is recognised as ongoing CPD. Which brings us to the end. Andy unfortunately is not able to stay around for Q&A, but I will be here to answer any of your questions. But thanks so much, Andy. It's been great having you here with us.
Hey, listen, the power of change, that's all I'm going to say, the power of change. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to empower everybody in the event world to make positive change. It's going to be cool.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I am open to any questions, and I'll see you soon, Andy.
Cheers.
Thanks everybody for joining us for the open day introduction. It's a shame Andy had to shoot off, but I am here to answer any questions, and I can see that we've had a few come through in the chat. So I will just kind of go from the top down. If there's anything else that comes in, just shoot them at me, put them into the chat or into the question section. So firstly, this sounds really great. You may be coming onto it, but what are the time commitments of the course? So we did cover that in the just a moment ago, but actually just to reiterate that, these are 45-minute to an hour-long pre-recorded modules. There are 6 of them, and in terms of time commitment, like most things in life, you get out what you put in. So you can kind of digest the content as recorded videos and kind of be an observer, or you can participate by engaging in the activities that are going to be built into the courses to engage with additional reading that we will be able to recommend to you, and by participating in the process of creating the event report. So it's really up to you how you want to engage and how you want to consume this. You know, it absolutely depends on your availability and your interest and the time that you've got and how much you want to put in. So hopefully that answers that question. It would be interesting to understand how interactive the course will be, or is it a series of webinars? Really great question. So these are pre-recorded modules, but we're not just doing like a Zoom webinar. It's going to be incredibly interactive. We are building into the sessions activities that you can participate in if you want to, for further learning and further research. So it will feel like kind of a delivered learning module rather than just necessarily sitting and watching a video. But as I said before, it depends on how you want to consume this. So you can take it as you see necessary. Will you provide the course reading as part of the course costs? So we're not providing any physical reading material for you to take away. There's nothing hard, but we will be providing additional reading and additional recommendations for reading. Everything that we do recommend, we will make accessible for you. It's not going to be behind a paywall. There may be certain things and books or, you know, reading materials that we mention that you may wish to go and purchase out of personal interest, but they're not critical for the completion of the course. I think we've sort of answered the next question really. Can I do this at my own leisure around my work commitments? Yes, absolutely. So like we said, it's about 45 minutes to an hour, and there's 6 modules. They will be released on a weekly basis, but you can kind of consume it at your own pace and do it in your own time. We will be having 2 live Q&A sessions, which I mentioned just a moment ago. That will be scheduled in, but we'll let you know when those are going to be and when they're aware. And I'm fairly certain we can record those so that anybody who's not able to join live will be able to kind of see some of those Q&As as well. But yeah, absolutely, it's designed to fit around work commitments because, well, we know how busy and crazy it gets in events. Would this course be appropriate for event managers in a venue? Yes, this is appropriate. This is a kind of, it's a general awareness course, but it's also very tactical and very dedicated in the events space. So it will be appropriate for event managers in a venue, agencies, you know, corporate planners, whether you are a freelancer or whether you work in a team. We're designing this as an accessible module that suits event planners wherever you sit in the value chain. So absolutely. What is the cost of the course? That's been answered. It's $595 for the 6 weeks modules. And I think that has covered the majority of the questions. I will need to present all course content and cost to management to get signed off. Can you send over a breakdown with all details, please? That's a great question. I will have to, I don't know if the meetings show can just drop a response into the chat as to where that information is available in terms of a breakdown and the details. Great, thanks. You've already done it. Question, can you explain what kind of activities? Yeah, so the way that we are designing the training is that it's self-directed learning. So in terms of activities, there will be there'll be gamification elements. So quizzes, questionnaires. That's in terms of kind of checking your learning, seeing how you're doing and how you're progressing. But in terms of activities, we're also, throughout the course, we will be helping you go through a process of creating your event plan, what that looks like, how you plan in that sustainable journey across the event, and then right through to how do you report on that post-event. So the key activity is actually building on a week-by-week basis, from the planning into the debrief, and that will be the principal activity, so that you can take that forward to work with clients wherever you are in the value chain or work with your stakeholders. But then in terms of kind of interactivity, we will have quizzes and questionnaires and this sort of thing to kind of help you self-assess the information, how you're digesting it, and your ability to kind of apply it logically in practice. Will there be assessments associated? Sorry, just reading through. So will there be assessments associated with the course, or simply us gaining our own knowledge? So again, with regards to this, you can participate as you prefer. So as we've talked about, you can just digest it as content and improve your own knowledge. If you participate in the creation of the plan through to the debrief process, that is something that we will actually be reviewing and providing feedback on. So you won't be assessed on a grade necessarily. It's not, you know, you've got 92 out of 100, but it will be based on everything you've taken. We will review your report, essentially your post-event report that we will be creating, and giving you feedback on that, so that it's kind of you know, healthily critiqued to help you improve and understand the areas and touch points that you've really addressed well, and where, you know, you might take into consideration in the future. So if you are participating with the development of that report and plan as you go through, if that's the way that you want to consume this course, then yeah, you'll be given feedback. And I think that's the last question on the chat. No, more coming through. What would your advice be in terms of the whole issues of flying into events, business meeting abroad, which is not very sustainable? Camilla, I would love to have that conversation. I think it's a really, really important and valid question to ask. It's something that we will actually address within the course, the issue of travel and business travel. It's not something that I will sort of go into at the moment, but thank you so much for asking it. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn or on Swapcard or something, and perhaps we can have a chat elsewhere about that. Bear with me, we've got a long one come through. Sorry, I'm having to process this question, which is why I'm just staring at the screen right now. During this period of transition towards as close to net zero as we can get, is the elephant in the room for every organisation not about how to determine the point of justification for any live event going ahead, rather than ways to get around, offset or reduce carbon footprinting? Does the course get anywhere near this fundamental issues that events pros are so far avoiding, like another bout of COVID? It's a very philosophical question, Chris, and I'm not sure I'm totally prepared to respond kind of off the cuff to something like that. I think there is more to the narrative of the events industry than purely the environmental side. There is the societal sustainability impacts and the economic sustainability impacts as well. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the route that you're taking, but I think it is a big elephant in the room that we need to address the impact of events, but at the same time, we're not an industry that's just going to close down and stop doing it, because it's an incredible industry, incredibly powerful, and we have huge opportunity to shape behavioural change in the way that we deliver our events and the way that we work. I'm more than happy to always chat about this kind of thing, but we'll leave this platform right now for questions about the course. So I'll just give it another 30 seconds or a minute to see if there are any other questions that come through about the course itself. Okay. Okay. Well, unless you have your last burning question now that you would like covered, now is the time to ask while I'm live. Of course, if you contact the meeting show with any other additional questions, we'll absolutely get back to you. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really hope that you're excited by the idea of this way to upskill and in your own time. What are you hoping is the outcome? Oh, now the question's flying in. Okay, right. What are you hoping is the outcome of the course for attendees in terms of success? Rebecca, I'm not sure what you mean by in terms of success. What are you hoping is the outcome of the course for attendees in terms of success for them? Well, I think our ambition at Isla and this partnership with the meeting show is to upskill the industry as rapidly as possible. There's absolutely a requirement for us to become experts in our specific fields, in our specific areas. We're not all going to become environmental experts or ecologists overnight, but it's the need for us all to take responsibility where we can, doing what we can where we are. So the idea about this is to give a wide and broad range of event professionals the skills and techniques to think differently, consider events differently, ask questions in a slightly different space, and take into account what we've really learned over the last year and a half about what is valuable, what's important, the recognition that we want a green recovery. These are all things that we feel very strongly in our personal lives. We value our time more, our relationships, the ability to kind of be outside, all of these things. How do we bring the value that we experience personally into the professional space, so that we're not, disconnected, that there isn't any dissonance? So in terms of kind of success for the course, it's the idea that we can actually, as an industry at scale, improve the awareness and the ability to present and plan and therefore deliver solutions that incrementally are able to improve the performance of our events across the board. And there's a need for professional and personal and individual activity in that. There's also an enormous need for infrastructure innovations within our industry, which is a separate issue. It's something that we will talk about in the course to a degree. That's work that we're hoping to do at Isla in terms of infrastructure innovation and improvements. But in terms of personal success for the attendees, will be the ability to talk confidently to stakeholders, understand how to put steps into place to plan an event in a way that enables responsible, accountable delivery, and to be able to reflect on that post-event on the sustainability journey and loop that back into future planning for ongoing events, which might have been a bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully that answers your question, Rebecca. Has TMS a plan for sorting waste at the show in London next week? Meaning, will stand sharers be able to sort out waste and dispose it in different waste bins? Unfortunately, I can't answer for the meeting show, as I'm here kind of representing Isla and the course, but we are working with the meeting show on their sustainability strategy. So as an organisation, the meeting show is actively addressing sustainability within their shows. I just wanted to check before I book, as I want to attend live virtual if possible, but work eve commitments for group meeting schedules. Thank you. Dawn, you can kind of consume it at your own pace, at your own time. The content is hosted on Swapcard, so you can watch it and participate in activities as and when. In terms of the live Q&As, we'll just give you through Swapcard as much notice as possible, so hopefully you can attend that, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to record those sessions and include them as additional course content. I am speaking on behalf of the meeting show there. Sorry, I was speaking on behalf of myself, not on behalf of the meeting show, but I'm pretty sure that we will be able to do that so that you can also have access to those Q&A sessions if needed. You might lull me now into a false sense of security that we're coming towards the end of our questions, but I thought that 5 minutes ago as well. So I'll just give you another minute or two to get those last burning questions out, if you have any. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for joining. Will the course? So Sally, question from Sally, will the course be relevant for smaller meetings, events, organisers, as well as large businesses? Absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. So the practicality of planning sustainable solutions into events it's a process. It's not, you know, a single answer of saying do X or Y. It's a way of thinking strategically. It takes you from kind of objective setting through to planning that, how you actually deliver it in practice, and then how you report and review on that and take that into account. So in terms of relevancy, whether you are organising a small event, round table in a hotel for 10 people, or a you know, auditorium style 250 person event, or a 10,000 person exhibition, the concepts are still the same around how to actually put into practice strategies and skills, in the same way that, you know, whether you are budgeting or creating a running order or a logistics schedule or organising catering, whether that event is 200 people or 50,000 people, you go through the same processes. So it's really about sustainability as a planning process. So hopefully that answers that question, Sally. After the 6 weeks, will we still be able to see? Yes, great. So the meeting shows answer that one. Yes, you will be able to access the content for a month after the last release of the 6th module. No worries. Okay, any more questions just before we wrap up? I think we've probably covered most of them. As I said, if you do have any questions that you don't think to ask now or crop up later, you can absolutely contact the meeting show via the website that was dropped into the chat a little bit earlier and has been dropped in again now. But unless any last questions come through in the next 10 seconds, we will wrap up this Q&A section and leave you to get on with the rest of your morning. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I hope that answered all your questions, and looking forward to hopefully meeting and working with some of you on this course. Thanks so much for joining.